Hello everyone, welcome back to the Event Digital class. So in today's class of computer organization, we will discuss another concept, that is our role of cache memory. We have already discussed about the concept of pipelining, and in the pipelining what we have discussed that when we execute the processes or any type of task in a sequence manner, then it will take much more time. But if we will divide that task into subtasks, then it will take less time because we can perform more number of operations, or you can say the sub operations of different tasks parallelly. Okay, I have already discussed that the concept of pipelining by taking a traditional pipelining concept, and in today's class we will see that what is the role of cache memory in the pipelining, or you can say how the cache memory helps to increase the performance of the pipeline, where we will use the concept of main memory. Okay, so let's go to the slides. So we know that each pipeline stage is expected to complete in one clock cycle, or you can say when we divide the number of stages or the pipelines into number of stages in such a way that each stage has to be completed in one clock cycle, and the clock period should be long enough to let the slowest pipeline stage to complete. Okay, as we know that when we are dividing a operation or a process into its sub processes, then the stages of a pipeline has to be in that period of clock cycle, or you can say the clock cycle contains that amount of time, so that the slowest process or slowest operations can be completed, and then faster stages can only wait for the slowest one to complete. Let's say that if we will take one clock cycle period at 2 nanosecond late, and the slowest one will need that 2 nanosecond to complete, but the faster stages may need 1 nanosecond to complete their operation. So in that type of situation, the faster stage has to wait for 1 nanosecond so that the pipeline stages will be completed. Okay. Then since main memory is very slow compared to the execution, if each instruction needs to be fetched from main memory, then pipeline is almost useless. So in this type of situation, if we will use the main memory, and we know that main memory is large in size, so that when we want to access any type of instruction, or we want to fetch the instruction from the main memory, it may need much more time as compared to the cache memory. So if it will take much more time to fetch the instruction from the main memory, then the pipeline is approximately useless. Or you can say, when we will use the pipeline, it will be 10 times greater than the time needed to perform pipeline stages. So fortunately we are having cache memory in our computer system, and the cache memory is present in the same chip in which the processor is placed, and we know that this pipeline technique is followed by the processor. Okay, so as the cache memory is present in the processor, so that the time which the processor needs to fetch the instruction, that will be reduced, and this makes it possible to divide instruction fetching and processing into steps that are more or less equal in direction, and then each of these steps is performed by a different pipeline stage, and the clock cycles will be chosen. So that is the role of cache memory. As the main memory accessing time is more, so we prefer cache memory, and by using the concept of cache memory, the pipeline performance is increased. Then let's see how the pipeline performance will be increased, and what are the problems arises in the pipeline performance. Then the potential increase in pipeline resulting from pipelining is proportional to the number of pipeline stages. In other word, you can say by increasing pipeline stages, the increase in performance can be getted, and then this increase would be achieved only if all the pipeline stages require the same time to complete and there is no interruption throughout the program execution. We cannot increase the pipeline stages at any numbers. Okay, if we will do so, then we need the pipeline stages has to be completed in the same time. So we have to divide the stages in such a way that the instructions which uses that stage, it will complete the operation which is performed or which is specific for that stage in the clock cycle. Okay, then which is not true, so that floating point may involve many clock cycles. So in one example you can say that we cannot increase the pipeline stages, or you can say we cannot divide the pipeline into multiple stages, because in some cases like in floating point operations we may need many clock cycles. So that if in one stage to be completed we need more number of clock cycles, then for doing that operations parallelly the another instruction has to be wait for a larger period of time. Okay, we will discuss it in an example. So here see the effect of an execution operation taking more than one clock cycle. That means if the execution operation of one instruction it will take more than one clock cycle, then how it will affect the execution of another instruction which will be followed that. Then here you can see there are 5 number of instruction I1, I2, I3, I4 and I5, and this pipeline concept we use 4 stages. One is fetch, decode, execution and write. And here you can see each stages has to be completed in a single clock cycle, and here is our clock cycles 1 to 9 late. Then I1 will be fetched, or you can say the processor will fetch the instruction 1 in first clock cycle. Then it will go to the fetching unit, and then after, and I have already discussed in my previous lecture that in between of every unit there is a buffer. That means in between the fetch unit and decode unit we are having one buffer, and in between the decode and execution unit there is one buffer, and then in between this execution unit and write unit there is also one buffer. So the processor will first fetch this instruction I1, and then it will be fetched by the fetching unit, then it will go to the buffer B1 let, and then from that buffer it will be given to the decode unit, then execution unit, then write unit. Then at last it will be written in the memory. So in this every stages takes one clock cycle, and when this instruction I1 in the decode fetch, at that point of time the fetching unit is free, then the fetching unit now can fetch the instruction I2. Okay, because these operations are independent, or you can say the two operations are not dependent on each other, and these operations are also needs only one clock cycle. Then I2 will go for decode, and then it will go for execution. Okay. But when it will go for execution, there may be some problem arises due to which the instruction needs more than one clock cycle. Here you can see it will take let 4 and 5 and 6, that is our 3 clock cycles, and then at the end of 6th clock cycle the execution of I2 is completed. Then it will go for write operation in the 7th clock cycle. But if it will, or you can say if the execution is completed in 1 clock cycle, then the write operation is performed in this 5th number of clock cycle. So as I2 takes 3 clock cycle to execute, then when this I2 in the execution stage or in this fourth clock cycle, the I3 is in the decode stage. So at that time, the I3 has to be goes to the execution stage in the fifth clock cycle if the I2 we completed its execution in this fourth clock cycle, but it takes more than one clock cycle. So the I3 has to wait until this execution unit is free or the complete of the execution of this instruction I2. So it has to wait for this clock cycle 6, and when the I3 will be waiting for the execution unit, then I4, or you can say the instruction 4 is fetched because fetching unit is empty, but it can't go through the decode unit because decode unit is busy or the buffer is busy or it stores the instruction I3. So the instruction 4 has to wait for this sixth number of clock cycle so that it can go to or it can access the decode unit. Then as the I4 is in the fetch unit buffer, then I5 cannot be fetched and it cannot be stored in the buffer because it is busy with the I4. So the I5 has to wait, or the processor has to wait up to this sixth clock cycle so that the I4 will go for decode and then I3 go for execution, and in other word you can say in the seventh clock cycle the execution unit is free so that I3 can go for execution unit, and then when it will go for execution unit then I4 can go for the decode because here the decode unit is busy with I3. So now when it will go for execution, now the decode unit is free so that I4 can go for decode. Then when the I4 is go for decode, then this fetch unit is free so that the I5 now can use this fetch unit and the fetch unit can now fetch the fifth number of instruction. Then it will do the operations. So here if only one instruction takes more than one clock cycle to perform one operation, then it affects the operation of other instructions, or you can say it stalls the operation of other instructions. Okay. So this is an example of the effect of an execution operation taking more than one clock cycle. Only not the execution operation, maybe sometimes the fetching operation takes more than one clock cycle, maybe decode unit, maybe write operation. So any one of these operation, if it will take more than one clock cycle, then the instruction which will depend on this instruction execution, that operations will be stalled. So the previous pipeline is said to have been stalled for 2 clock cycles. So that type of condition is called as hazards, and there are 3 types of hazards occur in the pipelining concept. So first one is our data hazard. So what do you mean by data hazard? Data hazard means it is a condition in which either the source or the destination operands of an instruction are not available at the time expected in the pipeline. As a result, some operations has to be delayed and the pipeline stalls. So data hazard means what are the data we need to process or to perform the operations if that data is not present or not available when it is needed, or the data is used by some other processes, then that type of condition is called as data hazard. Or you can say due to the absence of data or the unavailability of data, if the pipeline stalls or the operations delayed for some period of time or some clock cycles, then that is called as data hazard. And what do you mean by instruction hazard or control hazard? So the pipeline may also be stalled because of a delay in the availability of an instruction. For example, this may be a result of a miss in the cache memory, okay, and requiring the instruction to be fetched from the main memory. So that type of condition is called as cache memory, and the hazard is called as instruction hazard or control hazard. Then third one is our structural hazard. So structural hazard means it is the condition where two instructions requires or the two instruction needs the same resource to execute or to do the operations. So in that type of situation, the operations will be delayed or the pipeline stalls. So that is called as structural hazard. So here is one example of instruction hazard. Here you can see that the effect of a cache miss of one operation on the pipeline. So here you can see the instruction I1 is fetched from the cache in cycle 1 and it is go for decode in cycle 2, and when the instruction 2 will be fetched, then if let that the instruction is not present in the cache memory, so it is a cache miss. So in that type of situation, the instruction has to be fetched from the main memory, or the instruction fetch unit must now suspend any other further fetch request. Let the fetch request of the instruction 3 and wait for I2 to arrive or to be present in the cache memory. So we assume that the instruction I2 is received and loaded in the buffer B1, because after fetching operation by the fetch unit, the instruction has to be loaded in the buffer B1, and that is at the end of 5th number of clock cycle. So then after getting the instruction I2 in the pipeline process, then the pipeline resumes its normal operations at this point of 5th clock cycle, and then it will go for decode. So that when it will go for decode, then automatically this ith instruction will be fetched by the fetch unit, and then decode, then execution, and then write back. So it is a simple example of instruction hazards or control hazards, and that is called as our cache miss. Or in other word, you can say if one cache miss occurs, then it gives rise to one instruction hazards. Okay. Then here you can see, let's take an example that the instruction is our load X R1 R2. So the memory address, how we will calculate? So that is one addressing mode here is used. So effective address is calculated by adding this offset value with the content of R1. So here the memory address is computed in step E2 in cycle 4. Here you can see, because the I2 instruction is this load XR1 to R2. That means whatever the instruction is present or whatever the data is present in the address and the location, I will find by adding this offset value with the R1, and R1 will contains here one memory location. So this offset value will be added with R1 to find out the memory location of the operand, and then that operand will be read and it will be load into the register 2. So the I2, here you can see the main memory access takes place in the cycle 5, and the operand which is read from the main memory is written into the register R2 in cycle 6. So the execution takes 2 clock cycle, that means the 4th and 5th clock cycle. So in the first clock cycle, that means in the 4th clock cycle, the address is calculated, and then in the 5th clock cycle, the operands which is present in that memory location, that is our X plus R1 content, that will be fetched or read from the memory location. So then the operation of write into the memory is performed in the 6th clock cycle. So it stalls pipeline to stall for 1 clock cycle because both instruction I2 and I3 require access of register file in cycle 6. Because here you can see the instruction I3 also wants to write something in the memory. Okay, so it may be a register file, so that it has to wait for 1 clock cycle to perform the write operation, and then when it will be wait in this execution stage, so the I4 cannot be going to this execution stage, so it will be wait in its decode stage, and then as it is in the decode stage, so I5 will be wait for the fetching. So in this way, this pipeline will stall for 1 clock cycle, and in the previous one which I have discussed, in that the pipeline is stalled for 2 clock cycles. Pipeline does not result in individual instructions being executed faster, rather it is the throughput that increases. It is not depend on the execution of a single instruction, else it depends on the complete instructions execution by the processor or the throughput of that processor, and the throughput is measured by the rate at which the instruction execution is completed. That means if a processor executes more number of instructions in less amount of time, then throughput will be more. Then pipeline stall causes degradation in pipeline performance. As pipeline stalls delays the execution of the instructions, then it will also decreases the performance. So we need to identify all hazards that may cause the pipeline to stall, and also to find out the ways or the solutions of that hazards or the controls of that hazards, so that we can minimize that hazards and we can increase the performance. Okay. So this is all about our today class. So in today class we have discussed about the role of cache memory, and if the cache memory is uses, then how the presence of cache memory increases the performance of the pipeline, and what are the hazards or what are the conditions so that the pipeline performance will be degraded, and that is called as the hazards. So we have discussed different type of hazards. In the next class we will discuss about the solutions or the techniques by using which we can solve these hazards. Okay. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.